Alrighty, how do we set up an aquarium into an aquaponics system? So you might already have a freshwater aquarium and you're wanting to add some veggies that you can grow. I'm going to show you how to go about doing it. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about filtration for those who don't know about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about lighting and basically showing you how to set all of this up. I've just put the 3D backing in here, so as I'm putting it all back together again, I thought I'd walk you through and show you how to convert your aquarium into an indoor aquaponics system. Let's get into it. Holy catfish! It's the aquaponics lady! We have my turtle tank here, which I've recently put the 3D backing on. Turtles need to have somewhere where they can bask, so they've got nice 3D backing here, and even up here I found the female up here. But before that I had this set up with an aquaponics section on top, but because I wanted to put the 3D backing on, I needed to take all of the water out, the turtles out, everything, and redo it. So I thought, perfect opportunity to show you what I did. So we're going to start off right from scratch, but there will be some really good nuggets along the way. At the moment I have a small little filter in here, and this has just been put in here to pick up any excess waste that's been hanging about for the last day. And this is what we would call the mechanical filtration. See how it's picked up a whole lot of dirt? That is exactly what mechanical filtration does. It picks up all of the yuckiness, all of the solid waste and things like that, and dirt and dust, and I've had the turtles in there for a day without the biological filter. But our mechanical filter specifically gets rid of the solid waste. Now this is only a small little filter, and it's comprised of this particular foam matting, I guess you'd call it. This is where your biological filtration happens. So this is what converts all of the ammonia, which is fish waste, into the fertilizer for the veggies. So turtles and fish produce ammonia from their gills and from their urine. We have two types of bacteria that live in this case, in this particular filter. It's nitrosamona, which converts all of the ammonia into nitrite, still toxic, but less toxic. And then nitrobacter, which is the second bacteria, converts the nitrite into nitrate. And it's the nitrate which is the fertilizer for our veggies. So we have billions and billions of bacteria in this biological filtration. We must have biological filtration in any aquarium and in any aquaponic system. This particular little filter acts as both the mechanical and the biological filtration. So I've had just a piece of matting in there to collect up all the waste. But because this particular filter is designed to collect waste as well as do the biological filtration, that means I need to clean this every week. A bit more work, but it does make it life a fair bit easier. So in this one, it goes just down the bottom of the fish tank. In a bigger aquarium, or when it's just fish, I wouldn't recommend using that little filter. I would recommend a canister filter. But I've had these guys for 10 years. They don't produce a lot of waste. So I know that this little filter is enough for them. So that's both mechanical and biological filtration are happening in that small little filter. We also have biological filtration happening in what we call the expanded clay. That's where our veggies will be sitting in. But only part of that, so up to about here, so about 1 centimetre or 2 centimetres will actually be in water. So the biological filtration for here is only going to be about this deep. We don't get very much biological filtration when we are using something like this. So this is, honestly, this is a 90mm PVC pipe with caps on each end, and I've drilled holes in the top. You can see I've marked it out and drilled the holes in, and these nets slot nicely in here. And what happens is we have the hole at the front here, right up here. The water is pumped from the fish tank, so up from the fish tank into here. The water then moves along, very small line, at this level, we don't want it too high, moves along here and then comes out the other end. This is called a nutrient film technique. We only have a small amount of water, and it's really only enough water to touch the roots. You can see I've even got little roots growing, if I can get the right. No, you're not going to see them. There is tiny little roots that are starting to come out there. Okay, so to cut the holes in the PVC pipe, I used a hole saw which is attached to my drill, and it will drill the size that you need. Nice and easy. What you need to identify though is which size net you would prefer to use. We want to make sure that the water is flowing through our pipe, and we also have to be aware that there's going to have roots coming out the bottom of our nets, either net, as well as we want there to be really good stability for the plant. We often forget about this fact. So I've got this little basil and a little spinach plant there, but if I was putting something tall in, or wide or heavy, so like a broccoli or a celery, then it could easily be top heavy and fall over. So we need to make sure that we're only putting plants in a nutrient film technique system that's going to be okay in there. So things like your herbs, your spinaches, your lettuces, things like that. Anything else I wouldn't be putting into a nutrient film technique. Please do not put tomatoes in there. Which size net do you use? Well, obviously I have both. I'm using this for my aeroponics system out front, and I'm using these for my nutrient film techniques inside. I prefer the bigger one. To me it provides the more root stability, the more plant stability, but it's a personal preference. You will find that you'll get loads of roots coming out of the bottom of both of them. So it is a personal choice. The bigger your plant, the bigger the net, ideally. But people are suggesting to use pool noodles instead of using nets or the media that I'm about to show you. Pool noodles being cut up, they do actually have neurotoxins in them, especially the cheap ones. And as soon as they've been cut or damaged, there is the possibility of that leaking out. Now there's no studies being done on it, but if that's in there, I don't want that anywhere near my fish or my food. Personal preference there. So you have the nets. Well, that's great. What do we do with that then? Do we just put the seedling in there? Do we just, put a seedling in there and set it in? Generally not. There are three main options. The first one is what we're taking from our aquaponics concept is the expanded clay, and that's what you saw I had, or what you can see is that I have in mine. I actually do have the expanded clay in the net, and then I'll put the seedling in, and I'll put more of the expanded clay. It gives you a little bit more filtration. It doesn't give you enough biological filtration, because remember, we're only having water, along the bottom couple of centimeters, so it really doesn't give you a lot of filtration benefit, but it's definitely a good option. But expanded clay can be expensive. So what are our other options here? In hydroponics, they use very commonly rock wool. It's pH neutral, and it comes with a nice little hole in the middle there. So you pop a seed in there, sit that in your net nice and neat. It will expand a tiny amount once it gets wet. The roots will come and grow out in it. It holds your plant nice and stable. It fits into the bigger nets, because they usually come in blocks. It doesn't fit easily into the small net, just saying. Problem is, this is a one-time use only, and they are fairly expensive. They do work really well though. This is one that I've been soaking and have a seed. It did actually sprout, and then I had something come along and eat it. I was doing it outside. You can see how it's all let's block the light there. It's a lot thicker, and you can see I'm squeezing the juice out there. So rock wool is one option. A second option, again from the hydroponics, these are probably most hardware stores too. This is cocoa peat, and again it's got a little hole in the middle there, but it's dried cocoa peat, and the minute you get it wet, it expands to look like that really huge blob there. Again, if I start squeezing that, I'm going to get water dripping out. And we can see that the hole is smack bang in the middle. Again, something ate the seedlings, the 2 little seeds that I put in there. Now, this was 25 cents for the cocoa peat one, and I think this was about $1.50 per square. Yeah, so I know what I'm wanting to do. So once you have either of these, and I want to do both, which I can't easily show you, it's so easy to just pop a seed in where those holes were. And I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to leave these inside. I took them outside and they got eaten by something. So, looking at the cocoa peat, and we've got that hole in the top, I'm just putting the seed straight into that. If you're looking at the rock wool, again, we've got the hole at the top, seed straight in. And in this case, I'm going to be putting this rock wool, so I've popped it in to this net, and it is going to go and sit nice and neatly into there where it's soaking up water and it's doing its thing. So you could use your expanded clay, you could use your rock wool or your dried cocoa peat, pop seeds in, or you can put your seedlings, if you're just going to buy seedlings from the farmer's market or wherever, remove all of the soil first, so wash them down, just straight down to the roots, put the seedlings straight in, and then if you want you can pop some expanded clay around the outside of it. In a small little net, if it was going to sit in, I would just put the seedling in. I wouldn't actually be putting anything around it for a small little net, but for the bigger nets that I've got in there, definitely reinforce in some way. Let's get on with the rest of the video, hey? We don't want this flooded. Why am I using a nutrient film technique and not, say, a grow bed? Because I usually use grow beds everywhere. Well, for aquariums, we don't have as much strength on the top of the fish tank. So unless I build another stand for the fish tank, having a grow bed on top is going to be too heavy for the actual fish tank and it will end up collapsing. But having a nutrient film technique like this, it's cheaper. Okay, much cheaper to buy a piece of PVC piping, a couple of caps and some fittings so that you can screw on and get the water to come out. And then also, secondly, there's nowhere near as much weight sitting on top of the fish tank like a grow bed would be doing. So it's something that people don't often think about, is that the grow bed will end up having not only the gravel, but also the water in there. So it gets really, really heavy. I know that for the amount of food that I give these turtles, they don't eat much. They only get fed a couple of times a week. They're not going to be producing too much nitrate. So a cheap little system set up for me here is perfect. My other systems, I also just use these on inside. It's cheap, it's quick, and it's easy. So why not do it that way? So, as I said, I've got a piece of PVC piping, 90 ml. I think that's 4 inches for you guys in other countries. And I used just a hole drill onto my drill, so just a hole cutter onto my drill. Drilled the holes, and I made sure that I measured that these will slot in nicely. So we'll get them out of the way. What I'm wanting to do, I want to make sure that this is not going to move very much. So I want to wedge some rocks in the right places so that it won't move. I'm going to need to tweak this a little bit later because I don't have enough rocks to move outside. But for the moment, that'll stop it moving. Okay, now I still have my little filter in there. We must have that. Even if you're doing fish, you're doing any other type of setup, you still need to have your mechanical and biological filter happening. Just think of the aquaponics as an extra bonus to get rid of those nitrates. Here is a small little, it's a new pump, and it's got our measure on here as to how high a flow. I want it on the lowest flow rating. because I know that this is going to be pumping a bit too hard anyway. Based on my previous pump, I have, here is the pipe that is connecting down to the water pump. Water comes up here and into the PVC pipe, and I have a valve here that I can adjust the flow rate if needed. So I will move this across for a minute. And I haven't actually done this pump before, so we're giving it a go together. Right. Push, ow, and don't get bitten by your turtles because it does hurt. All right, and you'll see that this piece sits nicely into that very first small little hole, and I'll show you that. Otherwise, I'll show you now. To that first little hole here, just keeps it in place. I do have a clip that I'll be putting and holding that piping in place as well, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay, well, why not get to it now? Let's put it back in place where it needs to be. My turtles happen to kick everything around, so it's much better if I can. Okay, that didn't like it and it broke. The joys and joys. Putting things back together again. Yep. Okay. I can also use a piece of PVC piping instead of this aquarium pipe. This is much cheaper though, that's all. Alright, we have the basic layout, so we've got the pump that will pump water going through. And if we turn it on, we will find out how fast this one's going to go. This pump will need to be running constantly, not on a timer. Let's see. Plug it in, plug it in, plug it in. Water is coming up. I'm going to bring the camera over and show you. You can see the water is pumping through, filling up. It's going to take a little bit to fill it up, especially because I've still got that valve open, which I'll pop you down. I'll close that valve because I want to see where it is at the full length, like at the full strength of this pump, how it's going. So all of that water is now pumping in here and it's moving along, and it will start to come out this end over here. So I'll pop you down and wait for that to happen. Won't take too long, but it will take a little bit of time. I've also turned this pump on its lowest setting, and there we go, we can hear it. Doesn't make you feel like you're wanting to pee when you can hear it happening. Now, because I've rearranged the inside of my tank, I did actually have the piping in a different position, but I want to wait and see what it's going to do as far as how full it's going to get when it's on high. Because as soon as I put these plants in, it's kind of see there's a little bit of a root there on my palm. These are the ones that were in here initially. As soon as I put these guys back into the PVC pipe, the water flow gets restricted. It makes sense, you know, you've got the net itself, and you've got the gravel and everything like that. That will start to restrict the flow anyway. When you add to that the fact of the root system for these guys, remember these are just little seedlings, these are not big plants. The root system can easily clog our pipes. So going with the smaller pipes, anything smaller than a 90mm or a 4-inch is going to be a bit too small for your nutrient film technique system. 5-inch or 100mm is probably a better option, but this has been working perfectly for me. So it's making me want to pee listening to that sound, but I'll put that lid on there and that cap on it. All I did there was just to move the flow over in that direction. remembering that we still have our mechanical filtration is still constantly happening. This is just a bonus. Okay, think of your indoor aquaponics as a bonus. We have to base everything, the amount of growing vegetables we can do is based on the amount of nitrates available. This is where indoor aquaponics differs from outside. Outside it is very much based on your filtration and your fish, and we have lots more fish in a smaller area, but lots and lots of filtration, whereas in an indoor aquarium we often have less fish, but in a bigger area. So we're wanting to base how many plants we can put in there based on our nitrates. So that means, for instance, don't drop. That means having our freshwater master test kit, and on the back it shows us our different water quality results. And this is a test from one of my other aquariums. But you see how there's showing that there is nitrate present? There's a colour over here, so I'd say that's 20 parts per million, looking at this level. So that means that there is enough nitrate for plants within the system. Now, as I said, that's actually for a different aquarium. We're doing other water testing. But that's what we will base it on. We're basing how many plants I can have based on how much nitrate is within my new system. Now, I know from experience that I generally have around 20 parts per million of nitrate in this turtle tank, not much more. So I can grow, say, 2, possibly 3 small things. So my basil, my coriander, or some spinach grow really, really well here. But I'm not going to be able to grow much more than that. So that's how we know it's based on our nitrates. Now that is balanced off really, really well. So I'm going to turn you back over here. That has balanced well. So I am happy that with that pump being at the full level, I can push these in now and we'll get the water flowing through. And that hasn't changed my water level very much, and that is working well. So recapping here, we've got our normal filtration, which is our mechanical and our biological filtration, which you just can't see because I moved down here with that I showed you. The matting that I put back in there, so the black stuff at the beginning that I put in, I've actually had that sitting in another fish tank, so to keep the bacteria alive while I played around with this tank. So I know that I have lots of good bacteria in that matting already. I've just put in the new pump. It's working right at the perfect speed that I want on the lowest setting. My turtles are going, what the hell is going on here, Candy? And that is going well. Now, the only thing I need to do now is add my lighting. You see, I'm inside, I've got the wall here. We're between 2 windows, but we don't get any lights. So, I have a very, very cheap DIY light stand. Just some PVC piping that will hold a plant light. And I built this based on the system before, so I know it works, but I also know that I need to get the rocks in the right place. It would be better if my back wasn't to you, but I can't help that. If you've got your fish tank in front of a light source, excellent. If you don't, then you need to put some type of lighting on top. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to damage that plant there. Okay, now if I move it all the way over and push that against there, that is now nicely pushed against the back. I can put my rock here just for that extra stability to make me feel a bit more confident. We're not going to have much in the way of weight on it, but we are going to have some. And now, this is my plant light that I got from an aquarium store. And it extends up, and I'll move the camera in just a sec. It extends up and over. Very lightweight. So we'll move the camera up so you can see now and back you up a bit. Oh. Okay, just an aquarium light, and it's resting neatly on there. None of this should be moved, but you do want to make sure that it is safe and secure for what you're doing. This aquarium light I have connected into my timers, which I didn't turn off. So it turns on automatically as that grow light. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice that's different from what I've done for most aquariums is over here, I have a light here. That's a UV light specifically for my turtles. They need to have the UV light for their shells. This is basically how to set up, start to finish, a small aquarium-based aquaponics system. You're only going to be able to grow a few herbs, but that's better than nothing. You know, I know that you might want to grow a lot more, and you can, but I know that for my turtles I can't grow more than that. For my other system that I'm building over there, I'll be able to grow a lot more. I'll be able to grow at least 8 to 10 herbs, which is awesome for me. It's one of those things that you will need to base it on your nitrate levels. Don't forget to have some type of lighting. And what I'm wanting to say about lighting is that as soon as we have our plant lights happening, and we have a glass fish tank, glass aquarium, and we have nitrate within our system, algae. Algae will start to form in your tank if you don't clean it and keep an eye on it. So that's something you'll want to keep an eye on. But I generally do maintenance on my indoor aquariums anyway on a weekly basis, so I don't really worry about that because I wipe it off. But especially with a plant like there, you will end up getting nitrates, which is what we want because we want that for the plants. But the nitrates will mean algae, and the light source is going to be growing the algae. So keeping those things in mind, that is it. Now, keeping them, I also have already had all of that cut up, but I've shown you how I've put it all together. If you need to know more, then you'll need to contact and say, hey, how can I do this more so? But here is an idea. It's cheap, and it's a way of being able to grow things without damaging the top of your fish tank. Unless you have a second stand for your, as in a proper stand, a grow bed will be way too heavy for an aquarium, just for the top of it. Even if it's got lids on it, it's still, they don't have the reinforcement. Aquariums aren't designed to have weight on top of them. So you need to make sure, if you're going to put a grow bed there, that you've built a really strong stand. Doesn't matter how heavy that grow bed is, a strong stand. And also make sure that it's UV stable, food grade, because otherwise it will easily break down with any type of light. Oh, I want to see photos.